So, former President Robert Mugabe is expected to appear before a Mines and Energy Committee. In their parliament, the former president will be summoned to answer questions on multi-billion-dollar corruption in the diamond industry. The 2016 Mugabe claimed that the country lost $15 billion due to corruption and foreign exploitation in the diamond sector. That a statement he recently denied. Among other things, the committee is investigating human rights violations and the joint ventures which saw many state departments mining diamonds in the area. Joining us now, we've got Piers Pigou, who is a senior consultant for the Southern African International Crisis Group. Piers, good to have you. Thank you very, very much for coming in. So we were expecting to see him appearing as scheduled today to answer questions on the diamond mining operations, but that's been delayed or postponed. So it's not going to be happening now, I suppose. What do you make of this, though?
Well, this isn't the first inquiry that the Zimbabwean Parliament has instituted into the diamond industry. In fact, the first one was instituted back in 2009, and a very comprehensive report was put out in 2013 by a very brave Portfolio Committee Chair, Edward Chinduri Chininga, who died in a very suspicious car accident about 2 weeks after the release of that report. And that raised all sorts of scandal about what was going on in the diamond industry. The inquiry was resuscitated again in 2016 after Mugabe made these statements about missing revenue. He actually said 15 billion had been secured in revenue, but 13 billion was unaccounted for. And of course, this became the 15 billion figure that we've seen floating around for the last couple of years. The current Portfolio Committee, being chaired by Themba Maliswa, the independent MP for Norton, has demonstrated in the new dispensation in Zimbabwe that it has some teeth in terms of calling a number of senior members of the security services, for example, and former ministers in front of it and asking a series of very tough questions. So Mugabe is being called in that broader context. I don't think he's got much to offer. I don't think he's got much to say. He's already denied that he knows any real details, that figure was sort of thrown at him. So, you know, he's not one for details. But, of course, the symbolism of having Mugabe brought in front of the Portfolio Committee will not be lost on those who saw him as being above the law for over 30 years.
If he ever gets there, because, you know, we're looking at, looking at just procedures, and the story is that the clerk of the court is not even written to him to actually appear. So, you know, we're wondering if that moment will actually come, even though they're saying that they're still standing by the fact that Mugabe must appear.
Well, you know, there's many stories that fly around in Zimbabwe that are very contradictory. You know, Independence Day celebrations, the one hand, state media was saying that Mugabe had declined an invitation. On the other hand, the independent media was saying Mugabe had never been, had never received one. So, you know, it's not entirely clear what the truth is in terms of why Mugabe is not there. They will give a certain amount of deference to his sleeping patterns, I imagine, and whether he's sort of up for it for the day. But if the chair has said they're going to call him, I expect that they will call him.
Yeah. So let's go back to the actual case, because we speak about the $15 billion. Now, the country's budget is only around $5 billion. I mean, this is a massive amount of money that we're talking about. Yeah,
look, you know, this is part of the opaque income generation schemes that many parts of the Zimbabwean state have been involved in over the years, and that opacity got worse under the rubric of hiding front companies from sanctions. This inquiry really is a litmus test of the state's commitment to clean up its act, to shine the light on what happened, and really what's left of the diamond industry, because there was a smash and grab operation in that area in which billions did go missing and have been unaccounted for. We've seen the police and the Central Intelligence Organization admitting in the last few weeks that it had joint ventures there, but the current leaders of that administration don't know where the money is, where it's gone. The military have kind of been airbrushed for the moment out of this, although they are the central player. And there's some questions being asked as to whether that is the case, because, of course, they're the primary backers of Mr. Mnangagwa's administration.
Yeah. Why the about turn, though? Because Mugabe really did make a turnaround amid these investigations.
Well, you know, the need to deal with the diamond industry is obviously central in the eyes of the international community in terms of building confidence and the legitimacy of the new administration. Hence, I'm talking about it being a litmus test of the government's commitment. It's critically important that this gets cleared up. And, of course, it's not only in the diamond sector. This is but one of many sectors in the economy that really does need to have a torch shone on it.
Yeah, I want to talk about the president now of Zimbabwe, President Mnangagwa, who is saying that he's very serious about cracking down on corruption, and this is just one example of his seriousness. However, he is very much so, and many people do say this, implicated in all of this, and that many saying that he may have been involved in this. So, you know, what do you think of him? Let me begin there.
Well, I think it's difficult to say. He's a bit of an enigma in some ways because he's been a quiet character. He's been present in the administration since independence in various portfolios, and of course he has certain incidents and issues attached to his name. Of course, what's the empirical evidence that underpins those allegations? And that, of course, is the environment that we're operating in and trying to understand in Zimbabwe. A host of allegations are thrown at people, and over the years those allegations become fact for some people. We really would need to see a proper inquiry, an independent inquiry, to determine the extent to which Mr. Mnangagwa and members of his administration may indeed be implicated in the kinds of allegations that are flying around. But as things stand at the moment, this seems to be a kind of a mudslinging match at them.
Yeah, it does. It does look like they. Have we heard from Mugabe? Has he actually agreed to appear?
Well, not with respect to that. He gave his first public televised interviews in March, in which he made a series of allegations about what had happened last year in November, including that he had been removed unconstitutionally. What's interesting here is he's pushing the line of constitutionality. Now, if Parliament calls him, it's constitutional for him, and he's obliged to come there, even though he has impunity from prosecution as a former head of state. That was given to him as part of his package to move off. That doesn't mean he can decline a subpoena or a request by Parliament to come and appear before them. So it'll be a test of his commitment to constitutionality as to whether he does indeed appear.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's also, however, we talk about money, but let's talk about the loss of lives, because many human rights organizations saying that at least 200 people lost their lives during this particular time of the operation to remove these illegal miners. Do you think this will open up another can of worms altogether?
Personally, I think it's unlikely that there will be a decent inquiry into what happened in 2008, 2009, when those miners were cleared out as the companies in the military and the security sector moved in there. I mean, we've already had Mr. Mnangagwa claim that there was no political violence in the 2008 election. So it's concerning that the head of state would say that about something which is pretty well documented. So it doesn't bode well, really, for a thorough inquiry into what happened back in 2008 in the Marangi diamond fields.
Yeah, but does it only apply to the Marangi diamond fields? Because surely this corruption in the mining sector is extended, and that it's bigger than just this.
Yes, I think that's correct. And, you know, the efforts and the narrative from the Mnangagwa administration is that it's very serious on corruption. It's bolstered the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Committee with some extra resources, and it looks as though there will be the opening of offices in other parts of the country beyond the Harare office. It's also set up specialized anti-corruption courts. So at one level there's a commitment, there's a rhetoric, there's an establishment of infrastructure, there's a concern that the cases that are being pursued have a political bent to them and are aimed and targeted at Mr. Mnangagwa's enemies. So, you know, there's a lot of people watching this, but you're absolutely right. Corruption and fraud extends across multiple sectors of Zimbabwe's economy and its social systems. And I think that this is part and parcel of the problem of a political construct in Zimbabwe, a polity that is embedded in corrupt practices rooted in patronage.
Yeah, well, this is going to be a very interesting development in Zimbabwean history, as we say, if we ever do see the former President Robert Mugabe sitting there in front of that commission. So some opinions there from Piers Pigou, who's a senior consultant for the Southern African International Crisis Group, commenting on Zimbabwe's parliamentary investigations on the corruption that took place in the Marangi fields, a matter that has been a very big bone of contention. Let's take a break. When we return, we'll get our final crossing from the tourism indaba.